Okay, however, as I was saying, even though whoops, sorry. Even though the conventions were really strong from the Imperial Bureau of Painting, the important part was that the face of the subject got portrayed accurately, not just because they wanted to look like the person, but because they thought the face could accurately convey character, especially the eyes. So great care was taken, to get all the little wrinkles, all the little imperfections. Really, the personality of the subject was very important to get across with the painting. So you might compare that with a number of things that we've looked at, most specifically, of course, head of Roman patrician with the Roman verism. We wouldn't really want to say, maybe you could apply the word verism there, but that was extremely important to get across. Okay, next. Summer Trees. This is a global contemporary piece. It's number 227. Our artist is Song Soo-nam, done in 1983. CE, right? Ink on paper. Again, ink, right? The importance of ink in China, in Korea, in Japan as well. I mentioned when I gave the Longman Caves lecture, the art of the brush, right? In particular, it's the skill with which the brush is wielded that can reveal a lot, or can reveal great subtleties of beauty. All right, so we're talking about in the 80s, well, let me go back, remind you about the literatus, which is the singular for literati, which is the scholar poet or scholar artist, the man who can not only paint, but can also do calligraphy and can also write poetry with such subtlety and deftness of hand that it's considered to be incredibly admirable. It's very simple line work. That does not mean that it's easy, but the simplicity of the line work that you'll see in some of this stuff, even back in the 11th century, because this is when the literati idea started in China, the simplicity appeals to 20th century Western art, 20th century Western audiences in some ways because of it seems like it's almost abstracted. Now, this is not from the 11th century. This is a 20th century piece, but you want to connect the popularity in part of Asian art, or particular kinds of Asian. Obviously, there are lots of different kinds of Asian art, but the popularity of ink work in particular kinds of Asian art has something to do with the 20th century, or the conception interest in abstraction. Okay, so what is our piece? Our piece is an unmounted ink painting. It's abstract, it's stylized, but it does have a title, Summer Trees, therefore they are summer trees. You want to associate a group of trees with a group of friends as well. This is a very friendly painting. We actually have not looked at the painting, although this is very similar. So he was part of this Oriental ink movement in the 1980s. The idea was that he wanted to kind of recover a sense of national identity, thinking that technology had made everything too impersonal. So there was an idea about going back to the basics and doing them with such great simplicity that recalls the earlier literati movement. So good. So I got that information from the British Museum. Okay, so here's our piece. Have I given you the information about our piece? Oh yeah, I did already. Okay, so here's our piece. You can see vertical lines of, it's monochromatic. It's all, black, white shades of gray, right? And you might look at this and say, oh, that's super, super easy to do. Actually, it's not easy at all. In order to get the variations in tone and the smoothness of the line, you have to have a very, very, very steady hand. Brushwork in China, in Korea, in Japan in particular, is a highly prized art. I should bring in my Buddha board for you guys to see. Okay, so we have a description of broad, vertical, parallel brush strokes. of ink bleed from one to the other in a stark palette of velvety blacks and diluted grays, right? We go on. Yeah, as I mentioned, really only somebody who's really skilled could do this. I know you might be thinking, I could do that. I don't know. I tried this summer. I was not that good, and I don't stink either. So, I mean, I'm not great, but, you know. Okay, so the idea is that, you know, I mentioned before, oh, maybe this is entirely abstract and it appeals to Western ideas and notions of abstraction. But again, this has a very literal title. So it's also deeply rooted in a very, very old tradition. So national identity, old tradition, abstraction, recapturing a past skill and executing it in a new way. All right, that is all I've got for you today. And oh boy, when we do this one. All right. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Have a great weekend. I hope you had a great weekend.